Welcome back to another video, guys, and we are getting closer and closer and closer to Hyperfest. So, first event that Jenny needs to be at, and I just finished up painting the cage, which you'll probably already saw already. I don't know what order these videos are going to come out, but that is physically just painted and drying, so I got to move on to something that I can actually work on that, doesn't have to do with touching the cage. So, fuel system. This is where I wanted to do some upgrades. I was kind of informed about some things on using a stock modified fuel rail versus just, going with another fuel rail. So, got a fuel rail from Nuke. Where'd it go? Now, I already know this, but bad thing for the moment is these brackets do not go to this rail. They updated their design, and these are not the correct brackets. These are for the old design, and they don't fit exactly, so I'm going to have to modify them a little bit, and, everything will be peachy keen. Fuel rail came with, these are injector clips to keep the injectors in, and, yeah, I think that's all fuel rail stuff. And then whole bunch of random fittings. Just going to be using some 6AN line. I've got... Okay, well. Alright, so this part I'm super pumped on. Fuel Lab came on board to help out Jenny this year. So I'm going to be running... So one of these boxes is their fuel pump kit. It's a 340 liter. It's kind of all this thing needs. It's probably even a little more than it needs to make 400 horsepower. Or 350-ish. And then filter, clamps for the filter, fuel pressure regulator, accessories that came with the regulator, and then I also got a gauge that I'm going to mount up on the fuel rail. Also from Fuel Lab. So, all this stuff, I'm going to start jumping into the fuel system. I'm going to probably jump, I guess, underneath the car, pull out what's there, and start getting this stuff ready. I've already looked at it, which is how I made my plan here with my fittings and lines and everything. So I'm going to start tearing apart what's under there, get it all out, start from, fresh, at least from basically stock fuel pressure regulator and filter on up. Because on these, they're mounted here underneath. So from here back, I'm just going to use what's there factory. In the tank, I'm going to use that Fuel Lab, 340 fuel pump. And then factory lines to here. And then from here, like I said, it will be the Fuel Lab filter. Up to the Nuke rail. Loop back around, down into the fuel pressure regulator. And then back into the return line. So I got the whole stock system out. And then I went through and took, fuel filter here is, I got the brackets hanging on it. I got a couple fittings on is what I think it's going to end up being. Same with the pressure regulator. I'm going to jump out of the car and try to mount these now. Well, I had some struggles last night, which isn't unexpected, but made myself a bracket and have the fuel pressure regulator mounted up here instead of underneath the car like the original plan. That bracket mounts down here, which actually I needed a bracket here because to run the M50 manifold, this power steering reservoir, that bolt needs to be there, but it hits, so you kind of have to rotate it away a little bit. So bracket solves that problem, and then comes up and mounts the fuel pressure regulator. I should be right above the intake pipe here. This pipe will then, come down, and I'm going this way for the intercooler pretty high because I don't have to worry about, headlights or anything like that in those normal locations. And then under the car, it's pretty dark, but I got the fuel filter mounted up down here. I had to go get bolts this morning for that. But filters mounted, pressure regulators mounted. Now I just got to make some lines and connect it all because That's going to go from the filter up to the back of the rail back here, which again, last night I modified these brackets so that they now sit correctly, because before these injectors were, they weren't lined up. Now I am waiting on spacers to come in, so that's why they do not touch. But those brackets were modified and painted. Got a 90 fitting back there. 90 fitting here, still debating, figuring out how I want to do. So this is going to be vent breather for catch can, figuring out where to mount that and what fitting, because this is super tight. Well, got my first line made. I wanted to do this one, off camera to give myself a refresher. But this one's going from filter, straight off the filter, and then going basically up the firewall, and then a 90 into the back of the fuel rail. So I'm going to thread this one in, and then I'll show you how I'm making the lines. So like I said, that first line was to filter up to the back of the fuel rail. Now we're coming out of the fuel rail into the pressure regulator. And I looked at it, at least when I was, mounting the regulator, on how I wanted to run this. And I'm hoping that I have enough. I don't know. Truthfully, I don't know. I might actually just go this way, which I was not planning on, because I thought I was going to be closer to here than I really wanted to. I was thinking about going under the manifold, but I don't think this PTFE line, that would be fine too. All right, I just have to make a decision there. All right, first thing we're gonna do is put one of our ends on, because you need a starting point. So since I'm looking at doing 90s on both of this, here is where, so masking tape for their regular, this is where the factory end was. You want to take your fitting, take it apart. There's going to be a ferrule in here. Make sure you keep that. And say, I take the fitting, put it in, make sure the tubing's round, and then you want to take the nut and put it over top. Make sure the threads are coming out the side that you want, and then we're sitting here and fighting to find an end of masking tape. There. So pull the masking tape. Then you want to come in with a small screwdriver or a pick, and you are, I don't know if you can see it up there, but you want to go between the steel braid and the PTFE, the plastic hose inside. And basically you're getting in there and you're starting to kind of unwind the all the steel braid. And you want to get it out away from the plastic. This is very pokey, so, be warned. And you also want to be gentle with the PTFE line inside. You don't want to pry on it too much. So yeah, you want to get it, pulled apart. Doesn't look pretty, but then take the ferrule, and you want to make sure you get no, steel braids in there. And you start pushing it over the plastic PTFE and under the steel braid. I end up using, a body hammer here. to get it seated all the way down. I don't know if you guys can see that, probably not, but you can see the PTFE come all the way up into the end of the ferrule. Now they suggest taking a little bit of oil, so I got a little cap of oil over here. Lightly oil the threads. And then you're inserting into PTFE line. And then as the nut comes over, it encases and pushes those, the stainless steel, the threads back. And then you want to get it in there and started, pressure, pushing as you're starting it. That way it's not pulling apart. And then either 2 of these AN wrenches or the soft jaws for a vase are super helpful. But you want to get that in there and tighten her all the way down. You'll feel it bottom out. Give her the good old tug. Make sure it's not coming apart with that light pressure. And that should be one end. The wrench and the soft jaws are, ideal for not marring up, especially like with a black finish. You'll scratch it, you'll see the silver underneath it if you use like a regular wrench. These do not do that unless you're very aggressive with them. All right, well, I started with the line here on the regulator. You can start on either end. I think this was simpler. Start with the harder one to get to. And then, so you want to make sure you have painter's tape, masking tape, something like that. Basically run your line where you think you want it to run. Basically, all out where it should be. And then now that you've done one of these, you know where that end is going to be. So I put the tape right in the middle of where I want to end. Wrap her up. Pull it back off and go back to the bench. Well, I forgot to record making the other half of this one, but next step, pretty obvious. See if it fits. Hope that it fits. And now I won't be able to finish the next line here. But basically, I got a 90 on the bottom. It's going to go out the bottom. That's the return to go back to the tank. It's going to run under the manifold, meet up with the one coming through the back of the manifold for the feed line. And then this is where my plan didn't come together. So I have to order one fitting for the other side, or I guess not even a fitting, an adapter or something. Basically, I need to go from the AN line to a barb, and all I have is a 90 to do that, and that was not in the plan, and I don't think it'll work. I could physically make it work, but it is not the, there's a better way to do it. So I'm going to make half of this line. Now that we got fuel lines and pressure regulator and filter and all that stuff kind of figured out, so at least everything up on engine bay side figured out or parts ordered, I'm going to jump right into the fuel pump, which also came from Fuel Lab. So this is a 340, liter per hour pump, E85 compatible, even though I don't plan to use E85 on this one. It has the option. So comes with pump, pigtail, a couple clamps. You get filters, it looks like options, some rubber hose, and a couple, sleeves and whatnot. And then the other part is, this is actually from Rally Road, and a fuel pump, well, any fairly standard fuel pump, will slide into it, and then this mounts directly into the stock basket. So I'm going to go pull the stock basket and get to putting this all together. Well, it is all back together, but this did not go to plan. All right, first of all, we'll go over how it is. Done and together. So, pump, Rally Road sleeve, the filter comes with it, and there's a little lock ring down here. Pigtail, which is into the stock pump, or the stock wiring. That one should be okay because it's all, this isn't a big pump for what we're doing. Hose that came with the kit with worm clamps on each side. So, pump, all ready to go back in. And if you're paying attention, it doesn't look like the pump I took out because this is the pump that I took out. And it became apparent not even pretty quick, but when I pulled the pump out of this one, so here's the pump hanger, and here's the pump that came out of this one. Very apparent when I went to put this sleeve into this hanger that this hanger was a lot smaller. So luckily, out of a spare car, like a parts car that I have a spare gas tank sitting over there in the parts corner. So I pulled that one out in hopes that there was a difference, and there is. So I don't know if you can tell on camera, but they are different sizes in terms of physical, outer diameter. So I don't know what the difference here is. BMWs are absolutely great at this. I think my biggest one is a freaking gas cap. I have a 01 and an 03, both E46s, different gas caps. Why? No idea. This, I can only assume, this car is a 323 and it's a 99, so it's like a crossover year. So I can only assume it had a smaller pump, because like this Rally Road, sleeve is just for all E46s. Well, clearly it didn't fit this combination. So I guess I don't have use for that. Luckily I had a spare pump and carrier and I didn't have to go buy one. And I'm going to go drop this back in, hook everything back up, and fuel system will be almost done except for, a fitting or two that I'm waiting on. We are finishing up with everything fuel system related and not all the lines, but I'm going to close this one out. I've been working on a whole bunch of other stuff, but fuel system's done. Mounting the catch can in here. I'm missing 190 fitting, so it's going to go 90 off of here out. I want to be able to run it under the manifold. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but then it's going to, run either under the manifold or above it, and 90 into here. So catch can complete, fuel system 95% complete. Again, huge shout out to Fuel Lab. So far, all the components look fantastic. Just have to wait till we fire up and, kind of benefit from everything here. Doing a lot of work where it's all going to come together at once. I've got about 2 weeks until Hyperfest, and starting to really, you know, stress it here. But for this one, guys, this is your Captain Out